Okay, so we're gonna call this SMGs for Dummies. I rolled 2 SMGs. I feel like I got a pretty big grip on these SMGs. So right now I just put away a Midas because I'm getting ready for incursions, and I want to be able to hit as hard as possible. That's gonna be my job. I'm not really worried about the PvP things like I was this weekend. Real crazy. So now I've got a couple different guns to try out. I don't want to keep crafting some new ones with this incursions coming up, so I'm gonna work with what I have. So right now I have 2 vectors to choose from and a Navy MP5. I have another Navy MP5 and another Midas that I usually use, but like I said, they had that self-preserve, which is what this vector right here has, which I won't be able to take advantage of. However, it still has these other 2: deadly, increased critical hit damage, which is very important with a vector, because if you're doing a vector right, 1 and 2 shots should be a critical. And then I've got fierce, so it automatically is gonna have 8% critical when using this weapon, so that's just on top of everything else. And we can check that. If I go to character screen, I've got 1 and 2. Here's a critical hit chance, 36.5 with the first one, and then with the second one, let's see, critical hit chance 45.5. So we got 2 vectors, both level 31, slightly different talents, and one has 10% more critical hit chance than the other. So not all SMGs are the same. So this one has 22% and this one has 21%. So it's not even there that the difference really comes into play. It's literally this right here, this 8% critical when used, just it's 8%, so it just comes up nicely based on my base. So we're getting 10% just off of that, and that's just 2 vectors. But as you can see, this one right here has 113,000 and this one has 103,000. So now I'm trying to figure out, do I want that extra critical with that 113,000, which would obviously be a no-brainer for PvP, or do I want this 103,000 that has lower critical but has armor destruction? And armor destruction is going to be very important in these incursions if you want your weapons to deal damage to the NPCs.
Yeah.
So now I'm about to
just switch out. I guess Dark Zone first one and then switch out the other one.
Yeah. But right now I'm about to test out the bullets. I want to see straight up bullets, no mods. What does it do? So I'm about to shoot. Let's make sure I know which one is which. So my first one is the one that has, hold on. The first one is the one that has the critical damage, and the second one is the one that has the destruction. So alright, there's the first one. Make sure I equip it. So I'm shooting a target, 12,886 body shots, and I'm noticing I'm not getting criticals every other bullet neither. And it's got 28,000 crit damage. So now I'm gonna use the other big boy. And this one's 28,966 and 13,2. So that's slightly more. Not a whole lot more. It's about 400 more white bullet damage. Not enough to really matter. But, and then even in the headshot, you know, obviously that's where you really want the damage. It's not even too much more. About 2,000 more critical damage is what we're talking about on the difference between these. So now I'm looking at it like, okay, what am I going to be doing? Do I need that critical hit chance? I know I'm going to be running with a team. They're probably going to be using their pulse scanner, tactical scanner, and all that. So whatever that critical hit chance is going up, probably to the cap. And plus I use this ability that adds 10% whenever I hit enemies. I'm really thinking I'm gonna go with the destruction, because like I said, we're going into these dungeons. I'll sacrifice the critical chance for the destruction, and like I said, it's not even doing too much difference in my criticals. 2,000 damage ain't too much in a headshot. You're talking, you know, 44,000 compared to 46,000. That ain't nothing. So I'm gonna put the one that has the higher crit chance away, and I'm gonna pull out this Navy MP5. I don't really want to run with 2 vectors because of that low clip, so the other one's gonna have to be this MP5. Well, actually I didn't equip the wrong one, so hold on, let me switch this. And keep in mind that one that has higher critical also had self-preservation, so that's actually a really good vector. So I'm just gonna put it away. I ain't throwing it away. But before I do all that, let's go ahead and look at these mods real quick. So now I know that these are my 2 SMGs of choice for now, for the armor damage, and the Navy MP5, really just because it has a critical. the deadly damage, and then it has restored. Killing a target with this weapon removes all the negative status effects. I usually wouldn't be able to get that ability active because my electronics is too low. You see with this Fierce 1889, that's what it would have taken on this other vector, as you can see, had it not been in that third slot. So I get to take advantage of that restored now. Now, is that very useful in PvP? Probably not. PvE, I mean, I'm running around, I'm getting burned, I'm bleeding, all kind of stuff, yeah, and I'm killing fast. That just helps me know that I'm shaking that stuff off. No chocolate bars required. So I'll just go ahead and roll with that, and you know, with the critical damage, bigger magazine, we're good. Now, another thing to keep in mind here is you see this magazine on this vector base is 20. The magazine on this MP5 is 32. That's a big difference when you get ready to start talking about your magazine percentages, and that's why that vector has a lower clip, but it's going to hit harder than that Navy MP5 because you got less bullets to spread that damage out across. So the damage is going to be higher, and that's why I usually keep a vector in my Midas, so that while I'm peppering you with the Midas, I can switch to that vector and it's going to slap even harder than the other gun was. So I'm going to switch back to that method now with this Navy MP5 and this vector with armor destruction. So now when I run up into a harder enemy like those heavy guys, I'm switching out to that vector that's slapping hard through that armor, and I'm going for the head, FMF way. So that's that. The Navy MP5 compared to the Midas, obviously the talents are different. The Midas is going to have those same three regardless of what Midas you get. Midas damage and things, critical hit chance will change. Not all Midases are made equally. But the Navy MP5, if I had to compare it to a vector, I'd say it's closer to the Midas because it's got that bigger clip. Only good thing about the Navy MP5 is it's got way more accuracy than the Midas. Like that initial bullet on that MP5 is going exactly where I want it to go, which is exactly what I need for PvP. I mean for PvE, the incursions, versus the Midas has a lot more wiggle to it, which actually comes in handy in PvP because they squirrely, they like to dodge and all that. Now you can just do your hip fire, and as you're aiming up for that headshot, you're still getting some pretty good body shots off. And like I said, now with my health being so much lower, I can't activate that self-preserve talent, so I went ahead and gave up that ability, and now I'm working with primary DPS of about 3800. So that means I hit like a truck. I'm not doing self-preservation, so my health is also down. I'm not pushing 65-70k like I was last time, and that's where that self-preserve came in handy, because now in PvP, if I get into a stand down, just a shootout, and you know, you're just gonna fill each other full of bullets, I've got that healing to come back to me. Now I don't have that healing, so now I'm gonna be in the dark zone with this, and I'm still gonna have to do things differently because, like I said, I can't stand down with these rogues if I run into them. I gotta actually hit from the cover, like smart tactics, one shot, one kill type stuff. Very different than what I've been running this weekend, just because, like I said, these streets been hot with this new update. Everybody trying to get materials, and then they're splitting up the brackets, so you can't just pick on noobs no more. So now I'm gonna mod these guns, and I'm gonna start with this MP5, and this is where I'm gonna talk about hip fire accuracy and initial bullet accuracy and all that. So, you know, got 4 to choose from here. What's happening, man? So we've got 4 to choose from here, and I've got, you know, all these different mods that I can put on here. When you're talking SMGs, they have a naturally high critical hit chance, so you're really going to want to get your critical hit damage up. I could do this horizontal stability and increase threat, but I don't need threat. What do you? Oh yeah, they're going to change the way all that works. Hold on real quickly, though. I'm finishing up a video. So you got this stability and critical hit damage, so I'm gonna throw that on there because I want critical hit damage. The stability, you don't really need stability and accuracy on SMGs because they're just naturally good, but if you can, why not? So now is where we're talking about the grips, the underbarrel, and that's what's pretty important on the SMG, because that's where initial bullet and hip fire and all that comes in handy, and there's not too much you can do by way of critical on a undergrip. So I've got 2 here, and they're level 30. I wish I had a yellow one. I got these that do stability and accuracy, which would have been good, but this is an SMG, so we gotta, like I said, talk hip fire accuracy. So I've got this one right here, this orange, which has initial bullet stability as well. And when you're talking SMGs, they have a high rate of fire, and there's a, you know, those bullets come fast, but that clip is empty quickly as well. And if those first few bullets are not on target, you're missing them. So that's where initial bullet stability and hip fire accuracy come in handy, because as you're, you know, shooting close up, you're probably not going to be aiming down the sights because you're just too close to see them to be aiming down the sights. So that's where you're going to have to be hip fire. And when you're hip firing with that wiggle, you want those bullets to go exactly where you want them to go still. So that's why you want hip fire accuracy up, because that's a gun that you actually shoot from hip fire a lot. And that initial bullet, so that when you send those first few that it takes for that gun to, you know, line up, it just reduces that time for those bullets to line up and go where you want them to. So the clip, this is where it's usually good to go with a rate of fire, just because if you're sending those bullets faster on target, it's just more def. But weapon damage magazines are more for guns that have a low critical hit chance. So I wouldn't really go for weapon damage on these. Reload speed is pretty worthless on SMG. It's going to be slow anyway. Critical hit damage, that's what I'm going to roll with. Actually, no, I am going to do a rate of fire on this one. So magazine size and rate of fire on this. The scope is where it gets interesting, because this is where we're talking about optimal range. And when you're trying to get your DPS up and you want to hit harder, a lot of people thinking, oh, I just need this bigger number. But what if you could just make that gun hit for 2,000-3,000 more at a further range than before? I mean, that's instant damage and you didn't have to do nothing with your armor. So that's why I usually roll with optimal range on my SMGs. Especially because, like, after I'm close range with the hip fire and people get scared and they want to run, I like to be able to switch to that and know that when they run around the corner, I can still hit them. So I'm going to go with headshot damage and optimal range on that. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you could go with critical hit chance and headshot damage. That's good too, but again, SMGs are naturally so high, critical hit chance is pretty much wasted. But some SMGs might need it, like I showed you earlier. There was that 10,000 difference on the same vector. I could have thrown one of those on there and that'll help, but like I said, for this build it doesn't matter, because this with this gun currently set up. Let me look at my character. My critical hit chance is 39.5. Let me make sure that number's accurate. So this MP5 character, yeah, 39.5 is accurate. So now if I got somebody using tactical scanner or something, they can hit that 20% and I'm just close to the cap, which is fine. Or since I am running with this blocker, as you can see here, it adds 9.6 critical chance, so that's roughly another 10%. So I'm pushing 50, and that's 1 out of 2 bullets, and that's good enough for me with the scanner. Even without it, that's fine too, because like I said, I go for the head. It's all good damage to me. So this vector, real quick, it's gonna be a little different because, like I said, I like to chase them with that higher clip, but then I like to be able to switch to something that's hitting even harder. So let me go ahead and put my this barrel on here. Stability and critical hit damage, that's a given. Under barrel, some more hip fire accuracy and stability. Magazine, now this is where I'm going to change. Like, I could go with a rate of fire, but instead of that, I'm just going to go with my base weapon damage. Well, hold on. I'm going to go with this critical hit damage, because when I hit with this, the switch back to this one, even though it's not hitting as hard as it can, when it does hit, it's going to hit like a truck, and that's what I need versus a rate of fire, because I don't want that low magazine on that vector to just empty all out off target. I'm counting on that to be my truck. Like, if the other one wasn't hitting hard enough, now I know I got a second option that, you know, it's got a lower clip, but hopefully it hits even harder. And I'm just going to go ahead and go with the headshot damage and critical hit chance. Optimal range would have been good on the vector because it's not too low, but as you know, this one was having some issues with the critical hit chance. And instead of that scope that you can zoom in with, I'm going to go with this one, no zoom, because I need to stay within 10 meters. But this would have been an okay choice, 22%. Yeah, it's got the same stuff. So other than that, that's it for SMGs, I would say. Watch your talents on those. It's not worth it to really try to get them specific right now, but once incursions come out, that's when it'll be time. Anyway, Dig247, codename Prime, signing out.